China has held its position as the hub of global supply chains for decades. Unfortunately, this is about to change. Today, record numbers of foreign businesses are leaving China. The rate at which businesses are leaving China is creating a ripple effect that endangers the COVID-19 economic recovery. But one thing is for sure, China has never been an easy market to conduct business with. As a matter of fact, China is experiencing a post-coronavirus era as the country's economic engine faces a unique set of difficulties. Amazon, Google, Apple, Volvo, Samsung, just a few of the well-known companies are leaving China and closing their doors. But what is driving these companies to drastically exit the country? Before we go further, please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment so No Cap Capitalists can continue producing similar content and insights for you. Thanks! Now on with the video. There's always been a hidden cost associated with using China's inexpensive labor force and infrastructure. China has recently experienced significant development. However, major tech firms are increasingly beginning to relocate production outside of the nation. 95% of international firms are worried about China, according to a recent Willis Towers Watson survey on a political threat. This is an increase from 62% in 2020. Corporations are being compelled to shift by the prospect of becoming a political pawn, much as how Moscow has influenced Europe's gas sector. At this point, business is booming in Southeast Asian nations, including Malaysia, Vietnam, and India. So, Apple is moving a portion of the iPhone's manufacturing to India and sending iPad, Apple Watch, and AirPod production to Vietnam. Interestingly, for Amazon, India is now the source of its Fire TV hardware. Additionally, its Chinese Kindle plant was recently shut down. On the other hand, Samsung took the lead by moving its production to Vietnam in 2019. Microsoft and Google are now producing Xbox Pixel phones in a similar manner. Due to recent geopolitical upheaval and Chinese government COVID-19 lockdowns, Apple looks to be accelerating preparations to ship more iPhone and MacBook manufacturers outside of China in order to lower risk. Vietnam, Taiwan, and India are all probable substitutes. Apple's shift was aided by unrest at a location known as iPhone City. Up to 300,000 people work at a Foxconn facility in the enormous city within a city of Zhengzhou, China, producing iPhones and other Apple products. According to market research company Counterpoint Research, it formerly produced 85% of the iPhone Pro series by itself. To lessen the possible effects of political concerns, between 25% and 30% of worldwide iPhone shipments over the next 3 to 5 years, at least for the US market, can be supplied by assembly sites outside of China. In the long run, according to Quo, China will likely serve as the primary manufacturing hub for Apple's domestic sales, but not for shipments to other countries. Currently, Foxconn produces more than 80% of its iPhones in India, exclusively for local consumption. In order to lessen its reliance on Taiwanese assemblers led by the technology group, Apple has reportedly been instructing its parts suppliers to plan more aggressively for building Apple products outside of Asia, particularly in India and Vietnam. Foxconn, the Apple supplier, revealed plans to expand its current facilities in Vietnam by investing $300 million and building a sizable new factory there. The choice is being made as Apple tries to shift some of its production out of China. According to the South China Morning Post, Foxconn signed a 35-year lease for the new facility, valued at about $62.5 million, which will be located on 111 acres just outside of Saigon. The new facility, which now makes AirPods, Apple Watches, and iPads, will likely build MacBooks, a first for the nation. The United States trade dispute with China, which began under the presidency of Trump, is one major factor causing this effect. Companies have been forced to shift production out of China to countries like India, Vietnam, and Thailand as a result of Trump's trade war and China's COVID limitations. Today, Chinese goods are becoming less desirable due to tariffs. Restrictions on technology transfer are stifling development. Then there is the decrease in production caused by Chairman Xi Jinping's extensive and severe COVID-19 lockdowns. Also, the widespread electricity issues brought on by hydroelectric plants suffering from drought and flooding of coal mines in other regions. Local business owners are forced to follow the party line or risk disappearing. According to a recent survey by the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, 23% of respondents stated that they were thinking about leaving the country. Additionally, more than 50% of respondents claimed that business is now more politicized than it formerly was. By the way, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Furthermore, labor expenditures are another less expressed cause of this effect. Today, the Foxconn facility for Apple in Vietnam is in need of 5,000 new employees immediately. The starting salary for an employee in Vietnam is just $300 per month. In comparison, $650 was paid in China for the same job. India's workforce also receives comparable low wages. On the other hand, the Chinese economy was thriving. Beijing was becoming more open to outsiders. It was embracing international markets, trade agreements, and rules. Between 1980 and 2010, it saw annual growth of 10%. But then, these political ploys are about to harm China. For instance, the availability and cost of its coal have increased. Premier Li Keqiang of China informed regional CCP branches that the country had a very exceptional year and was dealing with challenging domestic and international circumstances. China's growth outlook was lowered by the World Bank from 5% to 2.8% for the year. Many well-known companies are leaving China as the U.S.-China trade war and the Taiwan disputes continue, and as interactions between Beijing and other liberal democracies decline over issues like trademark theft, human rights abuses in Xinjiang, and the loss of Hong Kong's independence. In fact, a third of supply chain chiefs expect to shift a proportion of their operations outside of China by 2023, according to research firm Gartner. The departure has been accelerated by COVID-related revenue declines, supply chain disruptions, and growing production costs. Finally, China has stuck to its zero-COVID policy, which helped the country quickly reduce rates of infection during the initial epidemic of 2020. The country's economy was able to quickly recover and maintain its growth trajectory thanks to the immediate and severe lockdown measures, as well as the stringent travel restrictions. Despite its historical success, the zero-COVID policy has had a negative influence on the economy, and firms have questioned its long-term viability. Furniture, clothes, shoes, purses, travel accessories, minerals, and science and technology all have diminishing exports. The biggest terminal in the world, Port of Ningbo, was most recently affected by China's zero-COVID policy. These policies are a crucial factor contributing to the further weakening of China's long-standing control of global trade. China is progressively losing larger production and export market share to Asian neighbors in important areas. According to information provided to CNBC by the transport economics company MDS Transmodal, China has seen losses in its proportion of exports across a range of industries, from minerals to office technology, as well as in several important consumer categories, including clothes and accessories, footwear, furniture, and travel items. According to MDS Transmodal, Malaysia and Bangladesh have snatched clothing manufacturing away from China, while metal manufacturing has slightly increased in Taiwan. Prior to COVID, the competition has been escalating. Since 2014, when it began to invest in its marine and manufacturing sectors, Vietnam has displaced China as the leader in the manufacturing trade, with a nearly 360% rise in long-distance commerce. According to Akil Nair, Senior Vice President of Products, Asia Pacific for Seco Logistics, since U.S. trade tariffs in 2018, there has been a search for alternate sourcing destinations to China, first limited to fashion and footwear. As a result of the COVID lockdowns in China and the resulting supply chain delays, Nair noted a quick spike in customers offsetting their sourcing regions, especially with countries like Vietnam. Nair claims that Seco has observed a rise in intra-Asian trade for raw material flows, with completed goods exports from Vietnam and other Southeast Asian nations following suit. Since the start of the pandemic lockdowns at the beginning of 2021, according to data from the freight tracking company Project 44, the total vessel TEU capacity leaving Chinese ports has decreased. The pre-2021 monthly vessel capacity of around 11.2 million TEUs was reduced to 8.6 million TEUs from Chinese ports in September, according to Josh Brazil, Vice President of the Supply Network Analytics at Project 44, representing a 23.2% decrease in vessel capacity leaving Chinese ports. Meanwhile, Apple has had trouble breaking its ties to China. Production of iPhone cables were interrupted in February after a fire broke out at the Foxlink factory in southern India, a supplier from Taiwan. Following the reports of inadequate fire safety precautions, the plant is expected to stay closed for another 2 months. In the end, China continues to account for about 18% of U.S. imports, despite the U.S.'s decreasing reliance on it. In fact, some made-in-China products, like consumer electronics and furniture, may have seen a decline in demand, but others, like lithium-ion batteries, are increasing exponentially. So, do you think these big companies will truly be able to flee from China? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons. Most importantly, don't forget to click the bell icons to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, feel free to leave a remark if you have any recommendations for videos. From No Cap Capitalist, have a great day everyone, and thanks once again.